Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is episode 3 of my solo playthrough of War of the Ring. We'll continue on with turn 6. To keep things moving along, I'm going to just show the dice rolls that are pertinent for battles and things like that. The other dice rolls I will take care of off camera. Each side has reclaimed their dice, and the Free People's player have drawn Smeagol helps Nice Master, Grimborn, the Old, son of Bjorn, and Father of Trees. We're going to be over on our faction cards, so I'm going to discard the Union of all our strength. Shadow player has drawn his cards. He has a total of 6 standard cards and 5 faction cards, so I've randomly discarded 1 faction card. We'll move on to the fellowship phase, and I think I'm going to declare in Dimrill Dale. Reason for that is we'll be able to navigate through the very dangerous Moria and get past the Balrog that's there. It's kind of being in the frying pan and into the fire because we're kind of in the same situation in Dimrill Dale, but at least we'll be through Moria. So we're going to declare in Dimrill Dale. We'll spend both of our Free People's progress. That'll put us at 0, and we'll move to Dimrill Dale. So we'll move the fellowship into Dimrill Dale. That's 2 spaces, and unfortunately that also means that the Witch King can employ his He Sees, He Knows ability. If the fellowship is declared in a region which is not an unconquered Free People settlement, you may move the Chief of the Ring Wraiths to the region containing the Ring Bearers. All right, so that's what he's going to do. He will follow them into Dimrill Dale. And I think what I'm going to do is replace those armies with an army marker and make that a little bit easier to handle. So I've created the second army in Dimrill Dale. Shadow player has placed 3 eyes during the hunt allocation phase. Free Peoples have rolled 4 character dice, 1 muster, and a recruit or play faction card. Shadow player has drawn an event die, 2 army dice, 2 muster army, and a recruit and or play faction die. And I think the Free People's player is going to use a character die, and we're going to play Smeagol Helps Nice Master. The Smeagol Helps Nice Master special event tile is now in play. Add the tile to the hunt pool when the fellowship is on the Mordor track. All right. So we'll add that token to our collection of Mordor tokens. All right, the Shadow player is up next. He rolled the hunt for the focus. So we're going to play Foul Thing from the Deep. I'm going to use a event die to play that. Play if the fellowship is not in a region containing a Free People settlement. Draw a hunt tile. If the tile shows an eye or a fellowship special tile, discard it without effect. Otherwise, follow the rules for successful hunt, except that the Free People's player must reduce hunt damage, if any, by eliminating a random companion, unless there are no companions in the fellowship before using the ring. All right, we'll draw a hunt tile. And the Shadow player draws an eye, so that is ineffective. Card is discarded along with the eye now. The eye will be added to the Mordor hunt pool. Free Peoples are up next. We have 3 character dice, so I think we're going to attempt to advance the fellowship. So we're going to play a character die, and we're going to advance the fellowship. They are at a progress of 1 now. And now, Shadow player is going to conduct his hunt. He has 3 dice in the pool. And the Shadow player is going to use his Flocks of Creebane card. That says, before you make a hunt roll, you may discard Flocks of Creebane to add 1 to all dice on the hunt, including rerolls. All right, and that's what we'll do. Now he's going to get 2 rerolls. We've got a Nazgul plus the Chief of the Ring Wraiths and army units that are in the second army. So we're going to get 2 rerolls. Here is the hunt roll. And he adds 1 to that. He has no successes. So he's going to get 2 rerolls with a +1. Is it possible we could survive being discovered? No. He's got the 6, and that is going to be a hunt tile draw. And our hunt tile draw is Smeagol. All right, Smeagol comes on the board. And that card says, if Gollum has not entered play, play Smeagol in the Fellowship when a Smeagol hunt tile is drawn. Smeagol is always the guide of the Fellowship. If a Smeagol hunt tile is drawn from the hunt pool, the hunt damage is 0. Discard Smeagol if he is separated from the Fellowship or the Fellowship is declared in an unconquered Free People's city or stronghold. If Smeagol is eliminated or discarded in any way, except being replaced by Gollum, the event card We Shall Get It immediately enters play. All right. So Smeagol is now the guide, and we'll place him in the front of the list here. And we'll add the Smeagol token to our stack of counters. All right, the Shadow player is dedicated to military matters, and he's focusing on Dol Guldur and Moria. We're going to use a muster die, and we're going to recruit. Shadow player is going to recruit a regular in Moria and a Nazgul in Dol Guldur. Free Peoples are up next. We're going to use a character die and play There and Back Again. Separate from the Fellowship 1 companion or group of companions. You may move them 1 extra region. Unfortunately, we don't have Gimli or Legolas to activate the dwarves or North Nation, but that'll give us an extra movement point. And I think we're going to get Strider out of the Fellowship. We're going to separate out Strider and Boromir, and they're going to move to Minas Tirith. We have a speed of 3 for Strider. We get 1 for the progress on the track and 1 extra for the card. So they're going to move into Parth Celebrant, East Emnet, Druiden Forest, and finally into Minas Tirith. Shadow player is focusing on his hunt for the ring, and we're going to play the card, the faction card, using this die. Play a faction card. The Craft of Shelob. Move all spiders up to 2 regions. If the Shelob's Lair special hunt tile has not entered play, it is now in play. Add the tile to the hunt pool when the Fellowship is on the Mordor track. All right. So we're going to move the spider in Dol Guldur, 2 provinces into Dimril Dale. We'll add that to the 2nd army. And then we're going to place that Shelob token into the mix. The Shelob hunt tile is added to the collection of Mordor tiles. Free Peoples are up next, and we're going to use a recruit faction die, and we are going to recruit the Ents of Fanghorn. If Saruman is in play and a companion or the Fellowship is in Fanghorn, you may use 1 muster or recruit faction die result to bring them Ents into play. So that's what we're going to do. We'll use the recruit faction die, and let's see what happens. And our starting setup is 2 Ents in Fanghorn. And we'll place 2 Ents into Fanghorn Forest. Sauron's focus is to military matters, and he's focusing on Mordor. What he's going to do is use an army die and attack in Minas Tirith. First army will attack Minas Tirith. And I think the Gondorian units are going to retreat into siege. So we're going to place these forces on the Minas Tirith siege box, and the first army will advance. So the entire first army has moved into Minas Tirith. We've left 1 garrison behind in Osgiliath. And I think the Free Peoples are going to use a muster die, and we're going to play the card, the Red Arrow. Play if the Gondor Nation is active. Advance the Rohan Nation one step on the political track, then recruit one Rohan unit, regular or elite, and one Rohan leader in Edoras. Okay. So the Rohan nation moves down the track one step, and we're going to recruit some forces in Edoras. And we'll recruit a elite and a leader in Edoras. Shadow Player is up next. His focus is on military matters, and it's going to be directed against Angmar or Ruin. And we're going to select Ruin. And we're going to use a muster die, and we're going to recruit some Easterlings, two regulars, one in South Ruin and one in East Ruin. And we'll place those forces accordingly. Free peoples have one character die remaining. Shadow Player has 3, so I think we'll pass. Shadow Player's gaze is directed to military matters, and it's going to be in the Dal Guldur Moria region. We're going to use a muster army die, and we're going to play the card, faction card, Her Own Offspring. Recruit one spider figure in Dal Guldur and one in Minas Morgul, or add them to the starting setup. Then, if the spiders are in play, move all spiders up to 2 regions. Okay. Alright, so we've placed the spiders in Dal Guldur and in Minas Morgul, and we can move them up to 2 regions. And I'm going to move that spider in Dal Guldur 2 regions into the second army. That is the second spider that we've got there now. The spider in Minas Morgul will move 2 regions into Osgiliath. Free peoples are going to pass again, so it'll be another Shadow Player action. Shadow is going to be focused on his ring. None of the event cards are very helpful, so I think all we can do is attempt to move some army units to get some extra rerolls. We're going to play an army die, and we're going to move 2 armies. We're going to move 3 regulars from Moria, and we're going to move them into the second army in Dimral Dale. That places 7 regulars and an elite, a Nazgul, and a spider in Dimral Dale, along with the Chief of the Ringwraiths. For the second move, I think we are going to move this army in Dagorlad, and we'll move that into the East Emden Mule. All right. Free Peoples players up next. We have 1 die remaining. It's a character die, and I think we're going to attempt to move the Fellowship. There's 3 hunt dice in the pool, 1 sword in the pool, so they're going to be getting a +1 to the roll. And they're also going to be getting 2 rerolls for Nazgul and army units in the same location. But let's do it. Shadow Player will be rolling 3 dice with a +1. He has 2 rerolls. And he has 1 success. The 5 becomes a 6. And he gets 2 rerolls, so he'll reroll those in the event an eye is chosen. And he has no more, so he has 1. We'll be drawing a hunt tile. And he draws the tile. 2 damage and reveal. All right, we have no corruption. So let's take a look at the Smeagol card and see what advantages we have with him. Well, Smeagol, as the guide, would have the same companion level as the highest one remaining in the Fellowship, so that would be Mary, and that would give Smeagol a 1. So our choices would be to use the ring and accept the 2 damage, or we could take a random companion loss, or Smeagol himself. Those would be the choices. And I think I'm going to use the ring. We have no corruption at this point, so we'll take the 2 points of corruption. All right, so we've used the ring to to take care of the damage. We have 2 points of fellowship progress that we can spend, and we are revealed now. So we have 2 points to spend, and we'll pick a path here and see which is our best path. I think we'll go to East Emnet. So we'll move through Parth Celebrant and into East Emnet. And we are revealed, and that means that the Chief of the Ring Wraiths is going to be able to follow us along. All right. Shadow Player is down to his last die. We can use that to any place on the board. I'm going to use it, the muster die, muster army, to play the card Stormcrow. Play if either the Fellowship or a companion is inside the borders of a free people's nation, not at war. Move that nation's political counter back 1 step on the political track. Then the Free People's player must eliminate 1 leader or army unit of that nation, regular or elite. We're going to play that on Rohan. Not only is the Fellowship inside of the Rohan territory, but so is Legolas in the fold. So they're going to move Rohan back up the track 1 step, moving them back to their starting location on the political track. Now Rohan has to eliminate a regular or elite or leader. So I think they will eliminate the regular that is in Edoras. All right. And that completes our action resolution phase. There's nothing happening on the victory point track, so we'll start a new round. We're ready for our next round, and the Free People's player draw the cards King Bran's Men, Premonition of Danger, and the Union of All Our Strength. That card is going to be discarded because we have a full complement of faction cards. The 2 other cards will put us to maximum. Shadow Player also draws his cards. He has a full complement of standard events and 3 faction. Fellowship is in East Emnet. They are revealed, and we have 2 corruption. The guide is Smeagol. The Shadow Player places 1 die into the hunt box. Free Peoples ended up rolling 3 character dice, an event, a play or draw faction die, and a muster die. We don't have a Will of the West die to crown Aragorn. Shadow Player rolls an event, 3 character dice, army die, 2 muster, a muster army, and a recruit or draw faction card. Free Peoples will start out by playing a character die, and we're going to hide the Fellowship. Shadow Player is focusing on the ring, so I think what we'll do, character cards aren't very helpful at this point, so I'm going to use an army die, and we're going to move some armies in an attempt to get some reroll action. So we're going to move 2 armies, and one of them will be to move into the Dead Marshes. We'll leave 1 behind, and the other one will be a move into Western Emden Mule, and we'll leave 1 behind in Eastern Emden Mule. All right. Free Peoples are going to play an event die, and we're going to play this Premonition of Danger. Draw 3 hunt tiles. Discard permanently 1 of them for the remainder of the game and put the other 2 tiles back into the hunt pool without effect. And that's what we'll do. We've drawn a 0 reveal, an I reveal, and a damage 1 reveal. I guess we will discard the damage 1 reveal, and the other 2 will go back in the bag. Shadow Player is focused on the ring again, and we're going to use a character die to move minions. We'll move the Nazgul that is in North Dunland to Druiden Forest. The Nazgul in Moria will move to Western Emden Mule. And the Nazgul in Dal Guldur will move to the Dead Marshes. All right. And I think the Fellowship is going to use a character die, and we're going to do some Fellowship progress. That will advance the Fellowship to 1 point of progress. And now the Shadow Player will make his roll. He has 2 dice in the box, and he's going to get 1 reroll for the chief of the Ringwraiths. And he has no success. He's going to have one reroll for the chief. No success. All right, we'll place this in the hunt box. Shadow is still dedicated to his hunt for the ring. We're going to use a muster army die, and we're going to make 2 army movements. We'll move 1 army into the space in East Emnet with the Fellowship, and we'll make another move from the Dead Marshes into the Druid Forest. That'll get us some extra rerolls. Free Peoples are up next, and I think they're going to use this faction die to play a faction card, and they're going to play Upon the Nazgul They Bore. Move all eagles, then choose 1 region on the board where both eagles and Nazgul are present. Roll a die for each eagle in the region up to 5. For each roll of a 4+, eliminate 1 eagle and eliminate 1 Nazgul. The Witch King is unaffected. If at least 1 Nazgul is eliminated, move any remaining Nazgul in that region, including the Witch King, to an unconquered Sauron stronghold. All right, so we're going to move our eagles. And I think we're going to move 3 eagles to Minas Tirith. And we'll move the other 2 into Lorien. Then we're going to be able to make those rolls then to see if we can get rid of the Nazgul that is in the first army. So we'll roll 3 dice, and we're looking for a 4 or greater to eliminate a Nazgul. And we've got it. So we're going to eliminate a eagle and the Nazgul from the first army. The eagle is permanently eliminated, and the Nazgul goes back to the force pool. Shadow player switches to military matters, and his focus is on Harad and Umbar. And they're going to play a muster die, and they're going to recruit a elite Southron in Umbar. So they'll place an elite in Umbar. Free Peoples are up next, and we're going to use a muster die to do some recruiting. And I think we'll recruit 1 regular in Pelagar and 1 in Dal Amroth. Shadow player is up next. His focus is military matters, and once again it's Umbar and Harad. We're going to use our other muster die, and we're going to recruit again for the Southrons. And we're going to place another elite in Umbar. Free Peoples player is down to their last die. It's a character die, and we're going to pass. And we'll let the Shadow player move once again. Shadow player switches to military matters, and his focus is Mordor. Unfortunately, the Eagles took out the Nazgul that was commanding the forces in Minas Tirith, and I don't have an army die to launch in it, or I have character dice, which I was planning on using to launch the attack on Minas Tirith, but I don't have an army die now. So we'll have to do something else. Well, they've got to get some Nazgul into that first army, so they're going to use a character die and move some Nazgul. And I think they will move the one in Western Emnet into the first army, and they'll move the one in the Dead Marshes also into there. It'll give them 2 Nazgul for leadership purposes and to be able to play character dice to attack with. All right. Free Peoples player has 1 action die. The Shadow has 3. Free Peoples will pass, and the Shadow player will take another action. He's focusing on the ring again, and we're going to play using a faction die. And we'll use that faction die to draw a faction card. Free Peoples will pass once again, and the Shadow player will take another action. This time his focus is on military matters, and his gaze is upon Dal Guldur and Moria. So, the Shadow player is going to use a character die to activate the second army, and he is going to launch an attack on Lorien. I think the elves will retreat into a siege, and the second army will occupy the area around Lorien. So the second army moves into Lorien. There's 2 eagles, and they also have a elven regular, 3 elites, and 1 leader plus Lady Galadriel. Free Peoples are up next. We have 1 character die, and we're going to play that to advance the Fellowship. There are 2 eyes in the box plus 1 sword. And in the space, there's an army and the Chief of the Ringwraiths. So he's going to get 2 rerolls and a +1. So we're going to advance the progress marker to 2. And now the hunt will occur. Shadow is rolling 2 dice, and he'll get a +1 and 2 rerolls. And he's got 1 success with the +1. He'll get a reroll. And he's got the 1 success. We'll be drawing a hunt tile. Let's see what we come up with this time. This time the draw is an eye and a reveal. All right. Well, he has 1 success, so that's going to. We'll have to take. We'll use the ring to absorb the corruption. It moves us up to 3. And now we are revealed. Fellowship has 2 movement points on the Fellowship track, and we'll use those to move the Fellowship. We have to decide now on which direction we want to go to get into the Cracks of Doom. I think we're going to head through Morannon. So the Fellowship is going to move 1 and 2 into East Emnet. They're revealed, so Chief of the Ringwraiths will follow with his special ability. He sees, he knows. And finally, the Shadow player is down to his last die. It's an event die, and we'll use that for any purpose. And I think they're going to play the card Morgul Wound. Play if the Fellowship is revealed. If the Fellowship's current corruption is 3 or less, add 2 corruption points. Otherwise, add 1 corruption point. The corruption now is currently at 3. So that Morgul Wound is going to advance that up to 5, which is not good. And that's going to conclude the action round, and we'll begin a new turn. We'll reclaim our dice, and the Free Peoples draw Long Battle, Rangers of the North, and we only need wings. All right, that will give them a full complement of cards. 6 standard events and 4 faction events. Shadow player drew his cards, and he is over the limit, so he has to discard 2 standard events. I randomly chose a character and an strategy event. Those are discarded. Fellowship is currently revealed in Eastern Emden Mule. We have 5 corruption presently. We made the roll for our hunt allocation, and even with the +2 modifier, Shadow player places only 1 die in the hunt box. And mercifully, we have finally rolled a Will of the West dice. We'll be able to crown Aragorn if we choose to. We also have 2 character dice. We can hide the Fellowship, an event die, a recruit faction or play faction card, and a draw card die. Shadow player has a recruit faction, character, 2 muster, 4 muster army, and the Balrog die. I also neglected to state that another eye was rolled, and they have 2 eyes in the hunt box right now. Free Peoples will begin, and I think we'll start with a character die, and we're going to hide the Fellowship. So the Fellowship is now hidden. They have 0 progress with 5 corruption. Shadow player is up next, and his focus is on the ring. None of the cards are too helpful for our hunt for the ring, so I think what we'll do is we're going to play a muster army die, and we're going to move 2 armies. We'll use it as an army die. We'll move the 2 units in Nurn into Gorgoroth, and then we're going to move the 2 units in Western Emden Mule into the Dead Marshes. All right. And the Free Peoples are going to play the Aragorn card. If Strider is in Minas Tirith, Dal Amroth, or Peligor, and the settlement is controlled by the Free Peoples, even if it's under siege, you may use a Will of the West die to replace Strider with Aragorn. And that's what we're going to do. We'll play this Will of the West die. And we're going to place Aragorn on the board, and he's going to give us an extra die for next turn. So Aragorn comes on the board in Minas Tirith, and we're going to get an extra faction, or extra die rather, for next round. We'll place Aragorn in the besieged area of Minas Tirith. Shadow player is up next. He has military matters on his mind, and he's focusing on Mordor. He's going to launch an attack on Minas Tirith using the First Army. So he's going to play a muster army die as an army and launch the attack. All right, we've set up the battle for Minas Tirith. Free Peoples player are going to play the combat card Sudden Strike, which has an initiative of 2. Sudden Strike. Play if a Free Peoples leader or a companion is in this battle, which they are. Before the combat roll an additional attack using the number of dice equal to your leadership, up to a maximum of 5, and apply the results immediately. Well, we have a leadership value of 4, so they'll be rolling 4 dice for this special attack. Let's do that right now. And they have a total of 3 hits. And the Shadow is going to have to eliminate 3 units, and we'll take 3 regulars out of there. Wow. Shadow player has also played a combat card, and since he has the spiders, we shuffled in the 2 cards that were available for that, and it ended up we drew Hideous Speed, initiative of 2. Play if there are spiders in the same region as the Shadow Army. Before the combat roll 1 die. On a result of 1 or 2, eliminate 1 of these spider figures. On a result of 5 or 6, eliminate a Free Peoples leader or a level 1 companion in the battle. If Huge and Horrible are in play, spiders add to the combat strength of the Shadow Army in this round. Well, it is not in play. So we'll roll a die and see if we can eliminate a Free Peoples leader. 5 or 6, here's the roll. They did it. They rolled a 6. They can eliminate the leader. And obviously, since we are choosing for the Shadow player, we are going to eliminate Aragorn. By selecting that, not only is a die going to be removed from the pool, but they're going to lose 2 leadership. 2 leadership, because that's what Aragorn was providing. And we'll begin with the attack by the Shadow player. He has a combat strength of 5. And he rolls no hits. He needed to have 6s because of the stronghold. Free Peoples have a combat strength of 5. They're going to hit on 5s and 6s. And they have 1 hit. All right. Now we'll take care of our rerolls. Shadow player has 2 rerolls. He has no hits. Free Peoples have 2 rerolls, and they'll use those as well. No additional hits. So 1 hit is scored. We'll select it to be a regular, and that will complete the combat. Now we have to decide if we want to stick around for another round. And I think the Shadow player is going to call off the attack for the time being, and we'll wait for reinforcements. They've done their job by taking Aragorn out, though that was amazing with a spider attack. All right, the Free Peoples are up next. And I think we're going to use this character die, and we're going to advance the Fellowship. So Fellowship progress moves to 1, and now the hunt will occur. All right, Hunt Pool has 2 dice in it, and they are going to be getting 2 rerolls. Here's the first roll. And they've got 2 successes. All right, so another hunt tile is going to be pulled. Pull out a hunt tile and see what happens. And they draw 1 damage. All right. That was not in the frame, it's 1 damage. All right, so we have to decide what to do. We can either take Smeagol as the casualty, and that wouldn't be necessarily bad. It's going to bring out the We Shall Get It will happen, but we have this card, Safe Paths, heal a corruption point and discard We Shall Get It without effect. So I think we will end up doing that. We're going to take Smeagol as the casualty that will absorb the damage, and all that's left in the fellowship is Merry. So with the removal of Smeagol, we get the We Shall Get It card playing on the table. If Gollum is the guide, discard We Shall Get It after a hunt tile has been drawn and before hunt resolution begins. To draw another hunt tile, apply the effects of the second tile and place the first tile back in the hunt pool. Okay. All right, the Shadow player is up next. His focus is on military matters, and once again, he's focusing on Mordor. Let's see what's happening there. Well, I think the Shadow player is going to play an event card, Hill Trolls. He'll play a muster army die. Play if Sauron is at war. Replace any 2 Sauron regular units anywhere on the game board with 2 Sauron elites. And that's what we'll do inside of the first army in Minas Tirith. So the first army consists of 3 elite, 2 regular, 2 spiders, and 2 Nazgul. And I think the Free Peoples are going to use an event die to play Safe Paths in the Dark. Heal a corruption point. Discard We Shall Get It without effect if either of them is in play. That would be whether it's We Shall Get It or We Won't Go Back. We will use it to discard We Shall Get It and heal 1 corruption. And that's going to heal 1 corruption, moving us from 5 down to 4. It was a good sequence for us. Shadow player is focusing on military matters, and it ended up to be Angmar or Ruin. So I think we're going to use a muster die, and we're going to do some recruiting. And we're going to recruit 1 Nazgul in North Ruin. Yes. And we can place 1 now that we've fulfilled the Ruin portion. We can place another Nazgul, and I think we'll do that. And we'll put that one in Minas Morgul. All right. Free Peoples are up next, and we're going to use this faction die to play a faction card. We're going to play Speed Greater Than Wind. Recruit 1 Eagle figure in Eagle's Eyrie. Then play 1 faction event card or reshuffle all Eagle faction event cards, including this one, from the discard pile into the deck, and that's what we're going to do. All right, we've shuffled in those discarded Eagles cards back into the faction deck, and we'll place an Eagle in Eagle's Eyrie, and they've been pretty effective for us. That 1 Eagle that we had attack in Minas Tirith was actually able to delay the attack on Minas Tirith by taking out that Nazgul, so they do come in handy. Shadow player is now focused on the ring, and we're going to use a character die to play the Palantir of Orthanc. Play on the table if Saruman is in play. When the Palantir of Orthanc is in play, after you use an event action die result to play an event card, immediately draw another card from either of your decks. The Free Peoples player can force the Palantir of Orthanc to be discarded by either using a Will of the West action die result or using any action die result and 1 Elven Ring. You may discard this card if Saruman is eliminated. Well, we're going to play that on the table. Free Peoples have 1 action die left, and that's a draw event. So I think they're going to pass, and we'll have the Shadow player take another action. And we've determined that the Shadow player is focusing on the military, and once again in Mordor. And I think he's going to use a muster action die and renew the attack on Minas Tirith. So let's set that up. All right, we've set up the combat. Shadow player has 5 attack dice. Free Peoples have 5. They're in a stronghold. Each side has 2 leadership. And each side has played a combat card. Shadow player has randomly drawn Hideous Speed, and that is a initiative of 2 that'll play first. It says play if there are spiders in the same region. Before the combat roll 1 die. On a 1 or 2, eliminate 1 of the spiders. On a result of 5 or 6, eliminate a Free People's leader or level 1 companion in the battle. If huge and horrible is in play, spiders add to the combat strength of the shadow army in this round. Okay. You know what? I think I misplayed this the last time. We had a 5 or 6 result. It says eliminate a free people's leader or a level 1 companion in the battle. They shouldn't have been able to target Aragorn. So Aragorn is actually not dead. We would have lost the leader. Gondor leader would have been lost. So I'm going to rectify that. So I've placed Aragorn back in. They've got their extra action die for the next round. And the leadership now is 3 for the Free Peoples. All right, so we'll make that hideous speed roll and see what happens. He rolled a 3, so there's no effect. And now we'll see what the Free Peoples player is going to do. It's through a day and a night. Confusion. Every unmodified die result of 1 in the Shadow player's combat roll scores a hit against the Shadow army. Any result of 1 cannot be re-rolled again during the leader re-roll. All right. Well, we're going to make our rolls then for the combat. We'll start out with the Shadow player. He's going to roll 5 dice. And he has 1 hit and 1 1. So we'll save those. All right. Free People's player will roll now. And they've done a total of 3 hits. Wow. All right, now we're going to do our rerolls. Shadow player has a reroll ability of 2. And he scored an additional hit. Shadow player, or Free People's player, will reroll. And he's done an additional hit, 4 hits against the Shadow. Wow. Well, they're going to have to remove 2 elites to cover that cost. Free Peoples will lose 2 Gondor regulars, I believe. Or do we take the... Yeah, I think we'll take the Gondor elite. We'll do it that way. And that will cover the casualties. And I believe the Shadow player is going to once again withdraw. They've only got 3 units there. And I think they'll withdraw. And the Free People's player is going to play this card draw. And I think we're going to draw a card from the character deck. And we draw the card. We prove the swifter. Separate from the fellowship or move 1 companion or 1 group of companions. You may move them 2 extra regions. The movement of these companions is allowed to end in a stronghold under siege. Okay, so that's all of the dice for the Free Peoples. We'll move back to the 3 action dice for the Shadow player. Well, we really don't have any good cards we can play out of our event cards, so I'm going to use our Recruit faction die, and we're going to bring the Hillmen of Dunland into play. If Saruman is in play, you may use 1 muster or Recruit faction die result to bring in the Dunlandings. And the Dunlandings will start with 2 in North and South Dunland, so we'll do that. So we'll place 2 Dunlandings in South and North Dunlanding. All right. Shadow player is concentrating on the ring once again, and he's going to use a muster die to bring in some reinforcements, and we'll bring in a Nazgul in Morannon and another one in Minas Morgul. And the last die we have is the Balrog die, and we're going to use that to activate and move the Balrog. He has a level of 2, so we'll have him move Dimril Dale and into the 2nd Army, which is besieging Lorien. And that is going to bring our action phase to a close. And I think we're going to bring this video to a close as well. Thanks for joining me for this 3rd episode, and I would like to invite you back for our 4th episode, and that will probably finish the game. Shadow player has brought in all 3 of his factions. Free Peoples have brought in 2 of their 3. Now with that error I had earlier, Aragorn is actually back in the game. So he has added an extra action die, which will come in handy for us. The Fellowship is currently in East Emnenmule, 2 spaces away from Morannon. So that should be interesting in the next video. Right now, the guide is Meriadoc Brandybuck. We have a progress of 1 with 4 corruption. So until next time, this is Keith from the Solo Gamers Club wishing you a good evening. Good night.